here in the perimeter, there are no stars. Out here, we is stoned. Immaculate.
Hello and welcome. This is the C86 show. I'm David Eastaugh. As you know, we love a special guest. This week it's going to be the turn of Roman Jugg, who I spoke to very recently to find out more about life, love, poetry and all that other groovy stuff. Has had an incredible life in music, was in The Damned during the whole of the 80s, or most of it, and has appeared on probably 4 of their albums, did various world tours, and now has a live band which is out and about called the Roman Jugg Band, playing music from The Damned and also the Phantom Chords. I will put a link to the Facebook page in the notes below, which has these particular dates that are going to be throughout the summer and also in the autumn as well. So this is the interview. So after several minutes of interesting but casual chat, we get down to the exciting subject of the early formative years. Roman, it's over to you.
Well, luckily enough, I was born 7 years before you.
Yes.
So I caught the tail end of the 60s. I mean, the first thing that struck me that I saw was the Rolling Stones. Simply because, one, they looked different, and two, they sounded different. It's the age-old story. They turned people back onto the blues.
Yes.
But when I first heard the last time, that riff, I just thought, wow, what's this? And they were such an interesting-looking bunch.
Yes.
And then, of course, the wealth of talent in the 60s, the Small Faces, the Who, the Kinks, stuff like that, and the Beatles, of course. And then I was lucky enough then to experience the glam era, as you just said, which totally turned the music world upside down for me. I mean, David Bowie was, was he from another planet? And then obviously later on, the punk explosion. So I had all 3 experiences of music genres changing.
Yes.
And then, of course, I managed to join one of my favourite bands ever, The Damned, and become a member. So it doesn't happen to everyone.
Did you have any older brothers or sisters that gave you any musical direction in life? Did you have anybody who in the house who had a cool record collection? Or
most certainly my eldest brother, he played me the Velvet Underground. And I thought, well, what is this,
Yes.
And then once the seed's been planted, you tend to start researching and investigating and exploring yourself, and then, of course, I discovered the New York Dolls and the Stooges and the MC5. And then subsequently through that, I started discovering the West Coast psychedelic band like, the 13th Floor Elevators. And I always loved the Doors. I thought the Doors were magnificent.
Yes.
So my elder brother influenced me. I mean, my first instrument was a piano accordion because my dad played one. But my elder brother had a guitar, which he didn't allow me to play. So I kind of played it behind his back. And one day he caught me playing it and he said, well, you're far better than me. You better have this, and donated his guitar to me. So
nice.
Joe, my eldest brother, was a big influence. Yeah,
was the one. Yes, it's interesting having an older brother. I had one which was 7 years older, and that was during the 70s period. But he had it was like, don't touch my record collection, don't come into my room. So obviously the minute he was off, you learn how to sort of remove the records, play them, put them back without him knowing, otherwise it would be hell to pay. But it was prog rock. He loved his prog rock, which I found, I was just sort of, I had no idea what it was. I was just very curious with the sleeve and putting these records on and hearing sort of strange songs by Rick Wakeman, King Arthur, or, Pink Floyd, or, all those, Yes and Genesis and Barclay James Harvest. I mean, it was just curious, but, during the day you'd sort of had the top 20 or top 40 on the radio at the school bus, and then Top of the Pops, and Sunday evening listening to the chart show with great enthusiasm to everything going on. So I don't know, it was life. It was all very interesting.
I always found that fascinating. How did these people find the prog rock? Because radio predominantly used to play, well, a lot of rubbish.
Yes.
a lot of the whimsical, this there's always been the novelty kind of element in it. But I would imagine those things like Yes in the early days, and even Pink Floyd, were very hard to hear, I suppose. Well, Pink
Yes.
Floyd, perhaps, I know they had like a couple of hits during the Syd Barrett period, like See Me Clay and On the Rain. But yeah, always kind of interesting. But the other thing interesting is it's great to be exposed to that kind of music, because it's like you said, what is this? What is this? But and also records. You mentioned sleeves. I mean,
Yes.
you could just study a sleeve for hours while you were listening to the records. You know what I mean? They were some works of art. All the information was there, and you didn't need a microscope to read it or
Well,
magnify
absolutely.
it.
Yes. It was always, it was something like play at maximum volume. And if you got it from the record library, it was always home taping is killing music, which is quite quaint now, as you sort of recorded on your trusty TDK D90 cassette. And yes, it was, I suppose it was the thing. It was just a exciting period. And, how you got to hear them. Yes, you're right. I don't know I think the Old Grey Whistle test sort of nudged Whispering Bob, bless his soul. He's still with us, but obviously not feeling that great. I mean, I think he was quite in that. And I think as well, when you get to a certain ages, even though it's embarrassing, but it's good to be honest, you are self-consciously trying to be cool or hip and thinking, oh, this is very groovy. If I like this, that'll make me a more interesting person. And people from, the opposite sex or whatever would go, oh my God, he's so interesting. I must hang out with him and we'll fall in love. And, there was a sort of element of that going on, wasn't there? I must pretend to like this film because that'll make me seem very deep and meaningful.
Oh yeah, definitely, yeah.
It's always
You want to be
it's always important to confess
yeah,
these kind of moments. I'm sure people who went, yeah, Crass is my record favorite, band. I often wonder if they ever played those records on their own, or whether it was just went, oh my God, someone's coming around, get the Crass records, put them on. Oh man, this is amazing. I play this all the time,
well.
and then it's like,
And on the other hand, how many people went to claim to have seen the Pistols at the Manchester gig? I mean,
yes.
there was barely 20 people there, but a couple of thousand have claimed to be been there. That's the same sort of thing, I guess. But
It is. So what was the first, because did you live in South Wales at this stage?
I was born in South Wales, yes.
Yes. So what was the first gig you went to at this stage? Because that would have been, was that the early 70s at this point?
Early 70s. Well, thanks to my brother again. He used to drag me along to see these concerts.
Oh, that's...
Some of them were good. I mean, I remember him taking me to see Yes when they brought out Tales of Topographic Oceans, and I've never been so bored in all my life, honestly. But on the other hand, Status Quo, the original lineup, they were brilliant. And then there was a great old theatre in Cardiff called the Capitol. It was actually a cinema, but they used to put gigs on. And I saw Dr. Feelgood there many times. And they were just blew me away.
Yes.
Status Quo, Dr. Feelgood. And then, of course, Slade. I saw Slade in the top rank. It was a tour when Dave had broken his leg. And he came on and he sat down and he had a plaster on his leg, which was covered with silver tin foil to match the rest of his outfit and stuff.
Oh, fantastic.
I saw
Focus as well. Oh, yeah. Focus, Hocus Pocus. Yes, we loved Focus.
Yeah. Focus at the...
when you sort of put that record on, when you're not supposed to and you've been banned, you start listening to it, you're thinking, okay, this is not Benny Hill or Telly Savalas or some sort of thing that one had, as you mentioned, the novelty records. It was like, God, this is very strange music.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone's listened to this at school. It was, but it was, yeah, Focus. I do, yeah. I think if you bought one, you bought the lot, didn't you? And I guess this is what he would have done with his record. But you saw, yeah. But I mean, the Quo were quite a band actually, because I sort of come from East Anglia, and the one band that you just didn't say anything bad against was the Quo. They were like the most dedicated followers, and everybody in there sort of, I don't know if you had the same leather jackets and denim, the sleeveless denim jacket with all the band names, and it was the Quo was definitely the one with their 250 Yamaha motorbikes and all that.
Well, so then obviously I think it was Norfolk must have been very much like South Wales because it was predominantly rockers,
Rockers.
and there were a lot of people who stuck their nose up if you said, "Oh, I really like David Bowie," well, "Oh, what that." Call
Your
him what his
sexuality
name
would have been questioned, basically. Let's face it.
Yeah, well, yes, they used to bark names at you then, But the marvelous thing about that time as well is, if you were into going out and seeing bands, you caught them early on. I mean, I saw the Clash with Richard Hell and the Voidoids and the Slits all on one bill, and it cost me £1.25 down in the Students' Union in Cardiff. Yeah,
I know. If only you had a camera and had recorded that, you'd have like, oh, look at those pictures. It was.
Yeah, if I stood there filming, I don't think Joe would have been very impressed.
No, but God, I just wished, there was a bit more black and white photography. That's the one thing I've noticed. Americans seem to have really captured some of those clubs and scenes and bands, and they've got beautiful books have been published, which obviously came out recently. And you think, oh wow, and then you see some grainy shot of some club in Norwich, and you think, yeah, that could be Jane County or that could be the Dead Kennedys. But to be honest, it's not a great picture. Whereas, yes, photography, it would have been nice. But anyway, you obviously did well on seeing some early gigs actually at that stage. But I like the fact that you went to see Topographic Oceans, which I think Rick Wakeman hated intensely.
I don't think he's the only one.
Yes, I think that was where the band might have suddenly had some issues. And yes, that was the days, wasn't it, really, where you'd see them slouching on the old grey whistle test, being very self-indulgent and rather arrogant. But that's the joy of youth, really, isn't it? You think your genius is going to be there, and that's the reason you're successful. But yes, there's other factors in play at this point, isn't there, in life?
I was a great fan of the old grey whistle test, but it was the old grey whistle test to me was another version of Top of the Pops, because I'd watched Top of the Pops in the hope of seeing something I'd like. And the same thing applied to the old grey whistle test. You had to sit through hours of what I would describe as turgid music, and then something would come on and you go like, wow. And then, of course, when the New York Dolls were on there, I mean, dear old Bob, you call it mock rock, something like that, I guess, But you can't please everyone all the time, can you?
No, but it was great that they actually sort of did put them on. But you can see that he was like, this isn't Steely Dan, and this isn't the Eagles. This is where's the beardy men from the West Coast, and the guitar solos.
Exactly.
Yes, poor old Bob. So when you got to the ripe age of 16, then did you stay on at school, or did you leave then at that point, which would have been almost the...
No, not at all. I went into the sixth form. I did my A-levels, but I started actively playing in bands when I was still at school in the sixth form. But it was a bit of a strange band to be in, because it was a cabaret band, and we used to play the working men's clubs and play covers like Knock Three Times and the Bellamy Brothers and stuff like that. Excellent. But it was a good grounding. It was a good grounding, because some of these clubs are very difficult. Invariably, at the end of the night, you get some drunk Welshman come up and request the most obscure song that you didn't know, and then it would all kick off. And to be sure, by the next gig, we knew that song, just in case that occurrence occurred again, because we wanted to get out of there intact, shall we say?
Well, yes, I guess you would have suddenly learned how to sort of please the crowd and not give it too much attitude. You couldn't be like Marky Smith and be that grumpy to them, could you? Because you'd have probably ended up in A&E.
It's all entertainment at the end of the day. But and you also learn quite a lot by learning other people's songs, which I think kind of helps you when you start writing yourself. It's you understand the structure of the song, and you understand chord sequences, and you change little things, and then you reinvent it, and it becomes your song. If you know what I mean.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, it's a very good thing to have the blueprint of this is a hit, and then you realise, I can see why it's a hit, And
I mean,
yes.
you've got to realise that Paul McCartney and John Lennon couldn't have come out with such a marvelous catalogue of songwriting partnership, over their back catalogue, if they hadn't started playing the skiffle standards or the rock and roll standards. You know what I mean? It leads you down a road. Eventually.
Well, yes, the world of Lonnie Donegan and Little Richard and Elvis, and the blues. It's and also they had a great love of sort of, I suppose, almost cabaret as well, didn't they? I don't know if you saw that film, the 8-hour film, which was them sort of recording their last album together. And I just thought it was I thought, I'm not sure if I'm going to stick with this, but I was absolutely gripped, wanting the next section and just seeing songs developing that you thought, my God, this was the beginning of that song, which then,
Yeah, I'm very much Paul McCartney. I think he kind of had, in some of his songs, he had the kind of music hall tradition.
Yes, that's
what I mean. Yeah. And but isn't it marvelous how things spark your imagination? And music is one of the best mediums, because music and film, a film without music is not as good as a film with music. You know what I mean?
Well, no.
It all helps. It helps all the senses. You know what I mean? Your senses are fulfilled.
Well, absolutely. Yeah, that was it was kind of interesting. There was there's also another one about being Paul McCartney, wasn't there? Another film that I saw recently. You can see I don't get out that much, but again, that was kind of interesting how he struggled on his first couple of albums, just in life and being on this island in Scotland, and then slowly things start to develop. It didn't help that John was writing so many great records, and then he came out with Band on the Run, and then you can see he started to find himself. But yes, you felt like it must have been quite hard for him at that stage. Yes, dealing with life and processing it at the same time of people thinking, I'm not sure about this album. It's very lo-fi, Paul.
But, I suppose it's like it does help when you listen to their solo records, because then when you put on a Beatles record which they wrote together, or they contributed because they kind of stopped writing together after a while, but then you can kind of pick out, oh, that's definitely John's bit. That's John's idea, or that's Paul's idea, definitely. Do you know what I mean? It sort of like helps you analyse it.
Well, it's interesting. Yeah, it is, because actually the other two records that Dear Brother had was the Elton John Goodbye Yellow Brick Road and also Sgt. Pepper by the Beatles, which when I would look back, it was like the mid-70s. So the Beatles you think about it, they hadn't broken up that many years when we start, at that point. And there was no cultural context to any of those albums. But I was kind of mesmerised by the variety of songs on Sgt. Pepper and actually Goodbye Yellow Brick Road as well. But yeah, I just loved that. There was this track on side 2 called Good Morning, which I thought was mesmerising. And then you had all those really either very trippy records or those ones which were sort of, like you said, musicals really as well. And there was a poster, wasn't there, that John had seen in a charity shop, and he just took all these names from it and put it for the benefit of Mr. Kite. There'll be a show tonight. It's like
Mr. Kite.
Amazing.
Yeah. But I mean, what's so fantastic as well, I mean, George Martin, you've got to take all these ideas in and help paint the picture that John had in his head. What a fantastic example of a fantastic record producer, and what the body of work that the Beatles put out in such a small period of time is incredible, and the way they evolved, fantastic.
Yes, I know. Well, I also think of, obviously, he was my person, Mr. Bowie. I mean, the 70s, the 60s work is quite interestingly strange and all right. But that 70s was like he brought out an album a year, as well as touring and doing films and doing theatre and producing and touring and getting married, having babies, getting divorced. And you think, yeah, and how did you manage to go from this album to that album? You know, how did you get the time to go from so many albums? You know, just do an album a year is quite boggling, but with that, everything else on top of that, it's like, okay, that is quite staggering, David. I can see why you slightly struggled in the 80s, but fair cop, mate, you did well.
I can't believe the people who say, I stopped listening to David Bowie after Diamond Dogs. I mean, Scary Monsters is a brilliant album. And then the Berlin trilogies, the Low, Heroes, and the other one. I mean, the guy was miraculous.
Yes.
You know, without a doubt, miraculous.
Yeah. And also, it wasn't just one little band that, you know, they were having, you know, it was like quite different musicians on each one and different producers. And I just think, okay, that's quite something. Yes, I'll give it. You know, Let's Dance was fine. You know, and actually, I've enjoyed listening to the other albums in the 80s, knowing that they're not that great, but trying to sort of think, yeah, okay, there's a few things on here, but give the man a credit. You know, give him some credit. I mean, it can't be easy. I mean, I'm not a musician and you are, so you know, it's not the easiest thing to say. Right, today I'm going to write 12 songs and get them recorded. It's tricky. So then, after your A levels, then did you flirt with university at this time, or did you think no?
I flirted with university for a couple of months, and then I thought, this is not for me. I really want to try and play music. So I got a job in a factory, and eventually, after trying out a few very bad Steely Dan kind of bands and a couple of funk bands, by then the Ramones were on the scene, the Stranglers were on the scene, and then I heard New Rose by the Damned.
Right.
And I thought, wow, because I hadn't heard anything like that before in my life. And I don't think I've heard anything since, to be quite honest. When that record has just got it's got its own energy, you know. That blew me away, and I kind of thought then, this is the type of music that I can quite fit in very comfortably, and I joined Victimize in Cardiff. One of the original members was Bryn, Merrick, who also went on to join the band later on. And so I was quite happy playing the type of music that I enjoyed. And it was original songs, not written by me, written by them at that point. We had a manager who was a bit of a gangster. He had a second-hand record shop where we used to rehearse, but he was also a promoter. And he used to put a lot of gigs on in an Art Deco cinema, which was a porn cinema.
Right.
But upstairs, they had a venue. And because he managed us, we got to support, for no money, I might add, the likes of The Damned, the UK Subs, the Lurkers, John Cooper Clarke, Gang of Four, Skids. And it was great because obviously they pulled in a bigger crowd. We started getting a bit of a following. It kind of fizzled out in '79. And then I was very, very lucky to be in the right place at the right time. Just have just about enough talent to pull it off. And I got offered the job in the Damned.
Oh my God. So how long did Victimize last for? Was that like 18 months or 2 years?
2 years.
Right. So you recorded a couple of singles, didn't you?
They recorded those singles before I joined.
Oh, right. Like Baby Bye and Where Did the Money Go? Which was that a sort of a song written for the manager?
I think you're probably right. You hit the nail on the head there.
Yes, God. Oh, well, I have to try and check down. Yes, you've got a compilation as well. Something the Pistols, I've been victimized. Nice. There you go.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah. Did the band break up at that stage, or did you just leave?
The band was kind of morphing into something else. And the something else was heavily influenced by West Coast psychedelia, which I was listening to a lot of. Because by then there were like new wave bands coming along, like the Rich Kids and stuff, and I thought, oh, this isn't really, you know, this is not, because punk kind of just happened and went, you know. And then you had all these kind of other bands who I kind of thought they were intruding a little bit, and the spirit of the punk thing had gone out, and everyone started dressing the same.
Oh, yes.
And, you know, so, I mean, you listen to some of the West Coast stuff, it's more punk than the stuff that was coming out then in 1979, you know. And that's how me and Paul Gray started speaking at a Hot Gossip gig. Do you remember Hot Gossip?
Oh, yes. God, that
Yes,
was...
they were, you know, they used to appear on Kenny Everett's show, scantily clad women and, you know, dancing provocatively.
Were they? God, I'm just getting. There was Legs and Co, wasn't there? And Hot. Was that? Is this the same thing?
Legs and Co were Top of the Pops. Hot Gossip would have been. I don't think they would have been allowed in the BBC.
Right.
The way they dressed, you know. But I went to see them with a band just for a night out, and Paul Gray was there, and we got chatting. And he said, "Oh, I live out just outside Cardiff, and I'm renting a cottage." And this is just after they released the Black album,
right?
And he said, "And I'm doing some demos for the new album, and I'm not a very good guitarist. So you come down and lay down some guitar and stuff." And in one of the sessions, that's where Generals, the song that's on Strawberries was written, which I contributed to when we wrote it.
Generals, yes.
Yeah, Generals on Strawberries. And through that, his acquaintance with me, he knew I could play keyboards because I used to do a little bit of keyboards for him as well. When the job came up in the Damned, I got a call off Rat Scabies. He said, "Do you fancy coming on doing a few dates with us on keyboards?" And of course,
Yeah.
And I just thought it was going to be those first few dates, but it kind of stuck, and then they couldn't get rid of me.
So up to then, because from the Black album, Paul was on bass. There wasn't a particular keyboard player at that stage, was there, on the Black album?
No, and when they went out on tour, they would hire a keyboard player.
Right.
Which is why I thought it would only last that long. But on this particular tour, the keyboard player was so young, his mother wouldn't let him go on tour with the Damned. So, and it was all last minute. And so I literally got a call. 2 days later, I was up in Shepperton and we were rehearsing, and I did the tour. And that was with the Anti-Nowhere League. So that was a baptism of fire.
God, that must have been a lively little audience to play with. My God,
yeah.
that was quite an interesting period as well, the early 80s. Musically, like you said, punk had had totally lost its shine. And it was a little bit of a not a tricky time, but there was certainly an element of, I don't know, that transition, wasn't there? It was post-punk, but then there was the new romantic stuff started to appear, as well as, I don't know, yes, psychobilly, anarcho-punk, wasn't there? I think things were sort of, people were finding themselves at that stage. What was it like, the atmosphere of the band when you joined? Because they'd obviously been together quite a few years and had the honeymoon period and had various albums. So, yes, what was the atmosphere like with the band?
There was always tension. And I think they kind of laughed it off, if that makes any sense. But the thing is about the Damned, they just, before they did the Strawberries album, they did the Friday the 13th EP. And you could tell that the Black Album, there's a lot of experimental stuff on there. And that's one of the elements, I think, is to why Damn survived that period. The whole one side of Curtain Call is one song, Curtain Call. I mean, that's not very punk, is it? But it's brave. And they were experimenting a little bit with styles. I think that Dave's kind of film set imagination was coming through on songs that he was influencing. Like 13th Floor Vendetta on the Black Album, stuff like that. But they still had the edge of the faster songs like Wait for the Blackout. And on the Disco Man EP, there was the Limit Club, which was about Malcolm Owen from the Ruts, who had sadly passed away. So they were brave. And I think they were brave. Through that bravery, it caused a lot of tension within the band, because I think they were looking at each other thinking, are we doing the right thing here? If that makes any sense.
Yes.
Captain would want to throw in a song, and I think Rat might go, oh, we shouldn't be doing that. And then Dave might say, well, let's give it a go. And then, so there was always a kind of an uncomfortable debate going on within the band.
Yes.
Disguised by lunacy and clowning around and behaving badly. I don't mean badly in a way that they'd hurt other people, but they certainly didn't behave themselves in restaurants and stuff like that, Whether or not they were trying to live up to some image, I don't know. Personally, I think they were all quite mad.
Yes, I've seen several documentaries. Dave always comes over as somebody who is there, but no one ever gets... Is that true, that no one really gets to sort of go beyond the, exterior that he has? Does he rise above it all?
Funnily enough, when I joined, Dave invited me to go around to his flat in Islington and, to help him with some ideas and run through a few things. And when Rat got to hear of it, he said, I've been in a band with him for 5 years and he's never invited me round to his place. And so, Captain was similar, but Captain had been around there, a few odd occasions, but, it got to a point where Dave wouldn't talk to Rat. Rat wouldn't talk to Captain, but they would all talk to me. So they'd be giving me messages to give to somebody else. Now I'd be thinking, well, why don't you just ring him yourself, Because it was like I don't know, it was a weird time. When we got on the stage, it worked for that hour and a half.
Yes, I know.
Sometimes sometimes the long journeys between gigs weren't very pleasant, but like I said, when we got on the stage, it was a different matter,
Yeah, because actually, Strawberries as the album, I mean, that's often a lot of people's favourite album, isn't it? That's the one that I particularly like. I think Generals is just such an amazing song. Can you remember much about recording that because that was with the famous Hugh Jones on production?
That's right, in Rockfield.
Oh, yes, my God, the famous rock. So yes, I love the documentary, The Farm, the residency. So did you all go and stay in Rockfield for 2 or 3 weeks to record it?
We certainly did. But what happened was, it's residential. Things are going swimmingly well. And then I was out in the sort of like the food area, where you sit down and make the stuff on with the TV is. And Hugh Jones came out. He said, Rats just hit Paul Gray. Right? So it was a disagreement about a song that Paul wrote that's on the album called The Pleasure and the Pain. And Paul shut himself in his room. And Rat went home. Paul then went home. And then it was just me, Captain, and Dave left there. And it was a very productive time, believe me. We kind of really almost wrapped it up down there. We reconvened in a studio up in Amersham, North London, and just finished it off with a couple of overdubs. But I think that was really the end of that damned lineup, because although we did a tour, the relationship between Paul and Rat was never quite the same.
No.
And after that tour, Paul jumped ship and joined UFO. And that's when Rat came up to me and said, well, Paul Gray's left. There's a lot of bass players who want the job, but do you know anyone? And I said, well, I know a very good bass player. I used to play with him in a band called Victimize. So I went down, I saw Bryn, and I said, do you fancy coming up and playing a few songs? And if it works, you'll do these few dates we've got left. And that's how Bryn joined.
Blimey. God,
that's... EastEnders has got nothing on the Damned.
Yeah, because because that documentary that I watched on Sky Arts, bass players, they have a hard time in the Damned, don't they? I seem to remember they don't, and they also, their health isn't great either, is it?
I think bass players in all bands generally have a bad time. I mean, look at Derek Smalls.
Yes, dear Derek.
Yeah. Bryn's health problems were of his own doing. And I think that one of the reasons why Algie left was because he was drinking too much. Paul was quite well behaved, and he was quite healthy as well. So it was tragic to find out at one point both Paul Gray and Bryn Merrick were being treated for cancer at the same cancer hospital in South Wales.
Yes.
Paul luckily recovered, and he's up there playing now, and playing very, very well. Great bass player. But Bryn succumbed.
Yeah.
You see, Bryn was he was larger than life. He loved life. He loved fun. But when you come off tour, it's difficult to switch off. But if you can, you should. But Bryn, when he came off tour, he even went further than when he was on tour. And he was going down a slippery slope, and eventually it was manifested in his health.
Yeah, God, it's not good, is it? So then there's quite a gap, isn't there, between Strawberries and the next album? So what, you do the tour, do you have much connection with the band? Are there periods where, you're wondering what's happening, or do you go back to work and start working on the next album quite quickly at that stage?
Well, what happened was Captain released Happy Talk.
Yes.
As a solo artist. So he had other commitments. When you've got a number one record, people are dying out for you to make appearances on TV shows, on radio shows, on whatever. And so we couldn't really do anything for a while. So what we did do, we did a gig. We did a gig without Captain, but we did it in the Fulham Greyhound in Fulham Palace Road, and we called it Nightmares. And we played covers, some psychedelic covers, some Monkeys, some whatever. And Roger Armstrong was there from Chiswick Records, who Chiswick put out Machine Gun Etiquette.
Yes.
And he said, why don't you make an album of covers? And under another name. And so that night, Naz Nomad and the Nightmares were born. We went in, I went to see Dave, we picked some songs to do. We went in the studio. I think it took us 3 days to do the album and then mix it. And then, of course, we we had a friend who. Do you remember the music magazine Sounds? Do you
Oh,
remember that one?
yes, sounds.
He said, "Oh, I'll do an article on you," and instead of just an article, it was like a double-page spread, and they put me and Dave on the cover, except that they aged us because he was Naz Nomad and I was Sphix Fenson.
Right.
And so all of a sudden, yes, I've got on the front cover of my music magazine, but I'm not me. I'm Sphix Fenson, you know what I mean?
Right.
And it was we kept the con going, the spoof going for quite a while, and then they realised it was the Damned, and then at that point, Captain came back, did a few gigs. Things weren't working out. I don't know if it was jealousy between Rat and Captain, because Rat felt, or if Rat felt the Captain had left him behind, because he's had all his solo success, and then Captain turned round, and I've still got my telephone answer machine tape, in which Captain rings me up and says, "I'm leaving the band, and I suggest you do the same thing." And I thought, oh, that's a bit, well. So I'm sitting there, and then Dave and Rat came around to me and said, "Okay, well, how about you going on to the guitar?" And I think we did the Nostal Priory gig, the festival,
Right.
which was that's the only time I felt nervous. I wasn't nervous about playing the guitar, but I was nervous about filling Sensible's shoes, his
Well,
boots.
quite. I would imagine the fans might have had some personal emotional issues on that, but
I think they did, and I think some of them still do. To be quite frank,
sacred shoes of Sensible.
But then we did that, and then we had a meeting, and I think Rat was sitting there, and he said, "Look, we've got £600 left. Shall we just divvy it up, or shall we give it a crack and do some demos?" Because we had no record deal then, right? Bronze had dropped The Damned. We'd done one last single with Captain called Thanks for the Night, which was on Damned Records, which is just a one-off. So we decided to go into a studio, and we went into, ironically enough, Pathway Studios in North London, which is where Damned was actually recorded. Really pokey little studio, really small. We went in there, did some demos, and lo and behold, we got a deal with MCA Records.
Wow, nice.
So, which led to Phantasmagoria, and the rest is history.
Well, yes, but the album of covers by Naz Nomad, that's Give Daddy the Knife Cindy.
Correct. Correct.
There you go. Cold Turkey. Yes, nice.
Yeah.
And I Had Too Much to Dream Last Night. Wind Blows Your Hair. That must have been quite good fun putting that album together, actually.
It was great fun because there was no pressure.
Yes.
You didn't have pressure of writing anything. Just put your stamp on it, and we enjoyed doing it. And then subsequently, we did gigs as Naz Nomad, which again is no pressure because you're playing these songs, that you like and whatever. And the punters, they like the fact that it is the Damned up there, but playing these great songs. And of course, they would come on with a wig, and it's so funny. We played the Town Country Club in London, and I'm in a sort of like a drinking pub on the other side of the road, and I'm talking to this guy, and he's saying, "Oh, I'd really like to meet Dave Vanian. I really, really want to. I'm the biggest fan. I'm his biggest fan." And Dave walked in with a wig, And he's talking to this guy, and the guy doesn't even know it's Dave Vanian. So when he went to the gig and saw us come on stage, he must have gone, "Hey,
Yes.
that was Dave Vanian,"
That was his
So
moment.
yeah, it was fun. It was great fun.
And did you enjoy? Was that a fun experience recording that particular album? Did that because you had a lot of instant singles, you had the record label, and also a slight change of, I don't know, personalities that can sometimes shift the atmosphere of a band, and without getting too new agey, the energy of a band can, like, oh yes, actually now that person's left, we're all having much more fun. Oh, it was that person who gave it. I'm not saying Captain was that, but sometimes just a change of personnel is quite amazing to see how a group functions.
I think we were a lot more comfortable, I'll be honest with you, in the recording process. And I don't know, to say Captain was a disruption, it's not right, but he was certainly a distraction, and so you didn't have that kind of distraction, I guess.
Yes.
His distraction disrupted the process sometimes. But yeah, no, we were a lot comfortable, and we had loads of demos.
Did you find you were getting new fans as well at that stage? Because it seemed to be you were getting chart success, and
with Phantasmagoria, most definitely. I think I think we probably lost a few fans as well, because they didn't accept the fact that the Captain wasn't there anymore, and they didn't like the direction. It was very moody, gothy kind of look to Phantasmagoria.
Yes.
But the fact of the matter is, for the first time, I think that Dave Vanian was allowed to be the front man. Beforehand, there was always this battle. Captain would start lecturing the audience and and giving speeches and whatever. Now Dave's the front man, and for all the people we perhaps lost, we probably gained double.
Yes.
So, and what's nice about that is, going back to what we were talking about earlier on, about discovering music, they became damn fans when they heard Phantasmagoria, and then they go back into the back catalogue, and they go, the Black Album, that's good as well.
Yes.
Oh, I like that, and they kind of, so they become real damn fans. They know it all then, you know what I mean? All right, they might have stepped in at Phantasmagoria, but at least they kind of expanded it, you know what I mean? They look backwards and then forwards.
I bet I expect the diehard fans were like, well, you weren't there at the beginning. You were just lightweights. People get very possessive about a band, don't they? But then when you went to record your next album, because your sort of 80s is going well here. A lot of people's 80s work, if they were big in one decade, they're not often fantastic in another. They sort of struggling with the sort of the scene, the sound, the new sort of producers. I mean, there was that Trevor Horn production sound, and people like ABC and Frankie and Propaganda on ZTT records. But you seem to be on a bit of a good roll at this stage, didn't you? To your 80s.
A role that I wasn't entirely happy with, to be quite frank. I still think Phantasmagoria was overproduced. But the thing is, you see, when you're with a major company, they've got a lot more clout, and unfortunately, they've got a lot more clout in areas where they shouldn't be influencing. I fought tooth and nail on things on Phantasmagoria, only be told by other members, senior members of the group, to stop rocking the boat. You've got to understand that sort of Dave Vanian and Rat Scabies, up to that point, had never had a major record deal, right? Now, there's pros and cons. You've got the clout of a big company behind you, with they can do publicity, and you get the everything, all the merchandising regarding the record is very slick and professional, and done really well, but there's areas where they're sticking their toes in the bathwater where they shouldn't be. You know what I mean?
Yes.
It's like and I still say this to this day. I mean, the fact that Grimy Fiendish got us to deal with MCA. Grimy Fiendish was never supposed to sound like that. Is It a Dream wasn't supposed to sound like that. Sanctum Sanctorum, yes, but I would have liked them to have captured a little bit more of the wildness and the roughness of the Damned live, and transferred that, and then just softened a few edges. But they seem to give it too much of a sheen for me.
Yes. They sprinkled a lot of fairy dust on it, didn't they? They wanted a big hit.
Well, yeah, I wouldn't call it fairy. I'd call it something else.
Yes. Did you ever hear the Trogs, that recording of them in the studio? He kept saying, sprinkle some fairy dust on them.
No.
Yes, it's
boom, papa. It goes boom, papa. That's brilliant. I love the Trog thing.
I know, I played it. Oh, God, it's classic, isn't it? Yeah, I know, it doesn't grow old at all, does it, really? But then, on the next album, I noticed you had a member, Blue Weaver, on keyboards, who was in the Straubs and various other sort of slightly folk prog bands as well. Was he just on a couple of the tracks on the album, or did he contribute on quite a few, most of the album?
He would have contributed a lot more had he not gone drinking with the band, because he was hospitalized in Denmark with a stomach problem due to his overindulgence with a certain drama. but Blue, he was a lovely man. I still occasionally hear from him. So his tenure was cut short.
Right.
And then we got I think Paul McCartney's keyboardist in. But that album was an example of a band going in to record a record when they quite simply weren't ready to record a record. We were exhausted. We had been touring the world extensively. We'd seen more of each other than our families.
Yes.
So there was backbiting going on. There were clashes. And then all of a sudden, and a lot of unfinished songs. That whole album, most of it is cobbled together in the studio, and you can hear it. You can hear it. It's we weren't ready. And the fact that you have 3 different producers, so there's no continuity there. So it was a catastrophic situation in which we somehow managed to cobble together an album and put it out.
Yes. Whose idea was to do the Alone Again, or was?
I went out to the studio in Denmark, and I was there for 2 weeks on my own because Dave had done his disappearing act. Rap was on holiday with his wife. Bryn had gone to Ireland. And so at that point in time, I was listening to Forever Changes by Love, which is
Brilliant.
a fantastic album.
Amazing.
And I was just messing around playing a version of Alone Again, and John Kelly, who was there, the producer, said, "Hey, look, let's put that down. So I put the guitar down, all the strings and everything we put down, and then when the band came over, Bryn put the bass down, Rat put the drums on, and eventually when Dave turned up, he sang on it, although I actually sing the lead line on that song. And to be honest, it was just an exercise to finish that recording. It was there. It was part of the tape. It was on the tape.
Yeah.
And then because we really didn't want to put out another cover, because we had that huge hit with Eloise, which is a cover. But the MCA heard it. I went, oh, that's the next single. None of us wanted it to be the single, but MC decided to do it. And I think it's a good version. I think the video is great. But that's the story behind that.
Yes, well, I guess they could see that this was a sort of easy sort of hit or easy sell for their promote the album, really. Because actually, during the 80s, it was kind of interesting because obviously I got really heavily into indie pop at that stage. But I did notice that, you know, as the 80s progressed, it was 83 to 87, the Smiths were there and they had sort of like captured a certain moment. Obviously, you had the mainstream charts, but then that late 80s, there was the sort of ecstasy sort of came in. There was a sort of shift towards more dance music with bands like the Stone Roses and Happy Mondays. There was also that, you know, the Orb and 808 State, a guy called Gerald. Did you sort of, as a band, did you sort of start finding it, you know, starting to sort of ask yourself where you fitted into the whole fabric or the whole sort of music scene at that stage?
I don't think that we had time to really think about that. I mean, there's a lot of stuff from that period that I've only just really discovered because we were, like I said, we were out touring. We tried to get this album together. I mean, and then we had to go and promote the album. But you could see it wasn't quite there. And then, well, that's when the demise happened. Because a lot of people don't know this, or they understand it incorrectly. Dave Vanian split the Damned up, right? He said he couldn't work with Rat anymore, and he was experimenting with this other stuff, which eventually became the Phantom Chords. So, and he said, but I want you and Bryn to come with me to do the Phantom Chords, right? So, in effect, and he did actually come out with this, I can quote Rat. He said, oh, so basically I'm sacked. No, we're splitting the band up, you know. But in a way, he's correct, yeah, because Dave would not work with Rat Scabies. So when that situation came around, I thought to myself, well, who do I go with here? Do I go with Dave, who I've written songs with, or do I go with Rat? I had to go with Dave, you know. To me, that was the only logical step I could do. But of course, when you try to start something completely new, it's very, very difficult. And so we weren't playing big gigs. Dave was not very punctual on occasions of recording or rehearsing, and when I say not punctual, you know, he didn't turn up. And then Rat cobbled this other dam together, if you like, you know, with Chris Dolomore and Moose on bass or whoever it was, and Alan Lee Shaw, who had these bunch of songs and they recorded them. So Rat got Dave to sing on it, right? And obviously they can go out and promote that album. I think the album's I'm All Right, Jack and the Beanstalk or something like that. So Dave can earn money again, even though he's probably working with someone he doesn't want to work with. And so the Phantom Chords gets shelved. And I think another reason why the Phantom Chords didn't work is because we were doing that kind of, the Phantom Chords had a distinctive sound. But what was coming up then? Grunge.
Yes,
Who's going to be interested in Phantom Chords when you've got grunge coming up and all this stuff? And so I can't really blame Dave for going back, but the fact that he had lured me away meant that I was left with nothing, and he's gone back to the Damned, which didn't last that long. because they fell out again. And then the next dam got together with Captain and Dave and Patricia Morrison on bass and Gary Dreadful on drums and Monty, who's been there ever since. Good old Monty.
Oh, that's amazing.
So it's all a bit of it was a roundabout that a lot of people got flung off, if you know what I mean.
Yes, God, it is a soap opera, really, isn't it, at this stage?
Yeah.
My God, it's hard to keep that sort of right. So Moose was of New Model Army, and then Chris was of the Godfathers. That was that.
That's right. Yeah.
Bloody hell! So yeah, my God, yes, your poor brain must have been working overtime of trying to read. It was like, was it a program in the 70s, I, Claudius, where I think they were always sort of stabbing people in the back and having to make sort of friendships and then sort of trying to gang up on somebody else. So I guess it was a bit tricky, really, at times, wasn't it?
It was tricky, and the trickiest thing is at that point, you haven't got a record deal. We did a Phantom Chords album that never got released. Then we did a cheaper one that did get released. And then that fizzled out. But we weren't playing that much. And you got to realise, at this point I had 3 children and a mortgage.
Yes.
And, how am I going to put the food on the table,
Yes.
So I had to shelve the music for quite a few years and just go out and work. Whatever I could do.
So what was the John Major meets New Labour? What was your 90s and the O years like? Where did you sort of direct yourself at that point?
Well, I always kept I kept a little bit of music going. Basically, a few little production jobs of like local bands, if you like. But I even went down to a point where I did some motorcycle couriering. I delivered furniture, and then I got a job as a warehouse manager, and then COVID came along, and I'm jumping to quite a few years here, but you can imagine, the other thing that really damaged me was the fact that I had a huge tax bill come through because I was under the impression, or I was told, that all that had been taken care of, but it hadn't. So not only did I have to try to feed my kids, I had to try and pay off this massive tax bill. So doing that takes up a hell of a lot of your time in your life.
God, yes.
Doesn't leave a lot of leeway for music.
No, and also you get like when it's to do with legality, there's sort of the slight stress and trying to understand how to deal with it is a whole nother ball game, really, isn't it? Was that something that all the members of the band had also experienced as well? The lack of
sorry?
I said the lack of accountancy can sometimes catch. I've spoke to a few people who had the same experience of like, oh my God, I thought the manager had dealt with this. I didn't realise. And then they had to sell literally all their instruments to try and clear the debt. And yeah, it was not the greatest moment.
It happens to a lot of people. I think you see, you get these people who, for whatever unscrupulous means, they spot the talent and then the wagons start to circle, And a lot of people, as you know, I mean, it's so famous. You've got these really high-profile groups, and you read about them, and they say, "Yeah, but we were broke. We were broke." But yet they've all this exposure, hits, whatever, and they end up broke. And to some people, it can break them. It can break them. They don't get through it. They don't survive.
No, I know it's not good. It's a horrible, murky thing. I know Hunter S. Thompson had a great quote, which I can't quite tell, but it was one of those ones about, yes, a lot of cheating, lying thieves. And then the last side, and there's also some negative sides, but that's just Hunter S. Thompson for you. Yeah, but then before COVID and stuff, you did bring a solo album out, didn't you, in 2004?
I did indeed, yeah. Papa Loco. And that came about by a guy who I was chatting to one day. He was in a band, and he said, "What? Why haven't you done anything for so long?" And I said, "Well," and I explained to him why, and he said, "Well, you should do an album." And he had a little studio in his bedroom, and I thought to myself, well, I've heard of people making records in their bedrooms, but all right, let's see if I can do it. But the thing is, yeah, there was a little bungalow about 5 miles away from here, and I insisted on having like real drums and stuff, and this poor mother next door cooking his tea or whatever, and he got his drums smashing away next door. But I did it. And then I did a gig, and I thought, well, I've done that.
Yes,
I just lost interest.
Yeah, well, it's impressive because I was listening because it's on Spotify. But you had on backing vocals of Wendy Morgan, who was in a band called the Pop Guns, who I love intensely. Obviously, they're indie pop from the 80s, still going.
Right.
Yeah, so you put together quite an impressive band.
Yeah. All these people were wonderful because they just did it as a favour, you know. Even Dave Julik, who's now in the current band, my current band, his wife, he came along and put some keyboards on it. I mean, the current band is marvellous. I mean, it's like I said, I've got Dave Julik and his wife Fiona. She's on keyboards. She's a great keyboard player, and he's on drums. He's a great drummer, but he's also a great keyboard player, and she's also a great drummer. So a couple of times they swap over,
Yes.
which is visually exciting, you know.
So with the band and the project you do now, is this the first time you've put together such a lineup and dates since those heady days back in the 80s and 90s?
I was asked to do a gig last year in August at the Hope and Anchor. And to be honest, I thought to myself, do I really want to play live? And I thought to myself, yeah, why not? Why not? And it went really well. I didn't do it with this lineup. I even got Paul Shepley to do it, who's not doing very well health-wise. So that's why he's not doing these dates I've got coming up. But it went really well. And also a lot to Paul Bedford, who kicked down the doors PR, because he's the first guy who approached me and asked me to do an interview on a radio show, and then consequently he got me on the Rebellion, the punk festival on the literary stage, and then they asked me back last year, and I did the almost acoustic stage.
Yes.
With a very good friend of mine called Matt Bolter, who's a brilliant musician, and Vom from ex-Dr. Merrick, who's now with Die Totenhosen. And then this year they've asked me to go back, and we're doing the Opera House, which is a marvellous venue, and with this band. And that's why I'm doing these dates about a week before, just as a warm-up. That's going terrifically well. Rehearsals are sounding really good. Yeah.
And then you've got a very busy month or busy summer, haven't you, at the moment?
Yeah, and we've got more gigs coming up in around Halloween. Newcastle.
Splendid.
And stuff.
So with your set list then, what have you put together for this? Is it have you got a particular sort of set list, or do you vary it quite a bit?
Well, for this one, because I wrote most of Phantasmagoria, most of it's Phantasmagoria. I think it's 6. One of anything. Couple of Strawberries. Because obviously I was involved with that. But, I played Just Can't Be Happy Today a couple of thousand times. So I feel entitled to be able to play it once more. You know what I mean? So it's a cross section, and then I've thrown in a couple of my own as well.
Nice, good God!
Off Papa Loco, yeah.
So you got so yes, just tell me the lineup of the band again, because I slightly missed that. Sorry about that. I should have been concentrating.
Right. You've got Dave Jurek, who plays most of the drums. His wife Fiona on keyboards.
Yeah.
A guy called Pat McNamara, who's in 3 different other bands on bass, and Paul Bedford on rhythm guitar.
Nice.
And then you've got some ugly bloke up front who can't sing.
Who just and thrown some shapes and yes, God, and
Yeah.
other.
I'll be throwing some shapes, but not intentionally.
Well, so you got the summer sorted, and then hopefully some autumnal numbers as well, dates as well. So it's quite good.
Yeah.
Are you tempted to do any new recording at all as you're sort of starting to get into a flow again?
Yes, I'm doing some. I can record at home. I'm actually, done a few little radio shows of my own. But I still create here. In actual fact, in August, I'm going into a studio in Cambridge with Ricky Maimie from the Brian Jonestown Massacre, just to see what'll happen.
Oh, Ricky, yes.
Yeah.
I've done an interview with Ricky. God, he's an amazing guy.
Yeah, he is.
He has done a lot of stuff, hasn't he, actually? Blimey. Sounds like everything the stars are lined up for you, actually. Yeah, this is all good. As long as you keep rocking and trucking, life's good, isn't it? Well, look.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, look, thank you ever so much. And also thank Paul as well for fixing this up. I hope your summer goes really well. And yes, you keep your creative flow flowing. That's the best I can do.
Well,
actually.
the thing is, I mean, I enjoyed my time in the Damned. I mean, when it was good, it was great. When it was bad, it was horrible. But
yes,
when I'm playing these songs, like Dozen Girls or Generals, it all comes flooding back, and I enjoy it.
Well, I think that is emotionally a good place to be, really. I think sometimes, yes, I don't know how to, well, not revisiting the past, but somehow it's surprising what we kind of remember, which is often the negative or the friends you fell out with. And then sometimes you sort of go, actually, wait a minute, there was all these other good times as well. That did happen, but that was only that little period. There was all this other period, and for some reason our minds prefer to focus on the slightly traumatic or the negative rather than the positives and the nice people you met and the nice exchanges. And you think, oh yeah, perhaps I need to work on that part of my brain. So it's good that you've revisited and yes, feel like Jesus Christ, this is amazing. It was a great time.
Yeah, it's never as bad as you remember.
No. And it probably doesn't last as long as one. But then I guess if you repeat these things every day to yourself, it's like it does accumulate. So I think that's what I found in life. But so it's funny you mentioned that line. When it's good, it's good. When it's bad, I go to pieces, which is a track. There's a line from a David Bowie song. I think it's Station to Station. I thought you were going to do that, actually. There you go. Good old Station.
I mean, it's one of those things. I mean, depending on what kind of person you are, it's just water under the bridge. There's no point in holding grudges. The world's bad enough. You may as well try and make it a little bit better by forgiving and forgetting.
Yes, I know. That is so true. That is a wise thing to do, really. And you think, oh, that is 44 years ago, some of that. So it's a long time.
Yeah.
But yes, I know. It's a bit frightening.
Lifetime.
A lifetime. It was. Look, we're both in darkness, which is good that we're saving electricity. But that's it. Look, thank you ever so much for your time. This has been amazing. And good luck for your summer. That's all I have to say. And with the recording with Ricky, I'd be intrigued to see what happens.
When will this go out?
Well, I'm going to put it out this week, actually, because frankly, it needs to go out because you've got all these things happening, haven't you? And I don't know about you, but I'm now at that age where I'm always like 2 weeks behind or 3 weeks. I think, it's the beginning of July. And then suddenly it's like, Oh, shoot. It's not, is it? Actually, it's nearly the end of July. I'm sort of always doing that without intentionally. But yes, I
No, I
realised that
know.
suddenly this summer is going quick. So I'll put it out
Yeah.
this week and keep in touch with Paul because that'll be good.
Oh, brilliant. I'd
Okay.
appreciate if you could just give the dates out when you do. That's all.
I will, and I'll put a link to the Facebook page as well so that
Oh,
you'll
that's brilliant.
direct people in that direction. But I'll do that
Well,
ASAP.
it's always a pleasure to speak to another Bowie fan.
This is true.
Always.
I know. And also, if you get a chance, there's that very early David Jones and the Lower Third. There's that's being released by from his 60s, which is quite intriguing.
Right.
Check it out. Anyway, look,
Yeah.
take care, and
You too.
all the best for the summer. Take care there. I'll say goodbye.
Thanks very much, David. Right.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
And that was me in conversation with Roman Jugg, talking about his life in music. This has been the C86 show, David Eastaugh. Have a great week. Stay safe.